What's going on, guys? Rachel West here, along with Rick Stroud and Joey Knight, talking about that wild game up in New Jersey yesterday, Bucs versus Jets. Rick, let's start with the obvious. Antonio Brown, crazy exit, walked off the field yesterday. I think I have more questions today than I did yesterday, if that's even possible. Make it all make sense for us.
I'm not sure I can. We talked to Bruce Arians, after the game and then again on Monday. And Bruce said that there was some conversation that he really didn't provide any details about with Brown. And the next thing he knew, he was stripping down to his waist, and walking off the field. And he really didn't know really what that flashpoint was. We have obviously done some reporting and found out that Arians was actually asking Brown to go back into the game. Arians says this was not an injury thing where Brown said he couldn't because he was hurt. There's a procedure for that. You go to the trainer will tell you when you're out. He just doesn't really understand why he melted down. He's concerned about him, hopes he gets help if he needs it. Doesn't regret having him on the team, obviously, but this was just a really bad episode that played out in front of everybody. And yet, the Bucs still managed to keep things together and come down and win the game.
Yep. I don't think AB can throw this one on the media this time. But Joey, we don't know exactly what's going to pan out with AB, but we do know that he is no longer a Buc, as Bruce Arians said yesterday. So moving forward, how is this going to affect them without him being out there on the field?
Well, I think it'll affect them significantly. There's a reason Tom Brady lobbied so much to bring a guy with such a troubled past into this organization, because he believed, and rightly, that Antonio Brown was that piece that could lead them to a Super Bowl or help lead them to a Super Bowl, which he did last year. The Bucs are 7-0 with Antonio Brown in the lineup this season. He just does some things that few people on the planet can do in terms of creating separation and running certain routes and getting his hands on elusive spirals. It's why he's elite. So you lose him, you lose Chris Godwin, whose work and the things he does aside from catching passes is well documented in the passing game. Now you're dealing with kind of a piecemeal receiving core outside of Mike Evans. Mike Evans looked to be pretty healthy Sunday. That hamstring didn't appear to bother him too much, but it's just Mike Evans and some guys who have stepped up and risen to the occasion lately. Cyril Grayson, one of them, but Cyril Grayson remained consistent down the stretch. We don't know that. Rashad Perryman has had his moments. Can he play consistently down the stretch? Same with Tyler Johnson. Scotty Miller, we still don't know. He's kind of a mystifying no-show in the Bucs offense. There was a reason Antonio Brown, the Bucs stuck with him for as long as he did, because he can help them win games. So you take him and Chris Godwin out of the equation, it's going to be tough sledding going forward in the passing game.
He definitely will be missed out there on the field. But as we touched on, they were able to pull off the comeback yesterday without him. A couple guys, like you said, Cyril Grayson stepping up. But Rick, they also did kind of suffer a couple more injuries that we don't really know how those are going to play out as the season winds down here either.
Yeah, that's true. And let me just go back to the second part of your question real quick about Brown. I've been told by several people on their staff that he never felt the same sort of support after he came back from his suspension for whatever reason. I don't think the Bucs did anything, but that's just another element of that. As far as the injuries go, yeah, I mean, they suffered some more. Both running backs now have injuries. Ronald Jones left the game. He's getting an MRI on his ankle. That's not a good thing with Leonard Fournette still out. Keyshawn Vaughn had a rib injury late in that game. I mean, they were down to Le'Veon Bell, who has been here all of a couple of weeks. Bruce Arians talked about hoping to get Giovanni Bernard off IR. He has not played in several weeks. So they have a puzzle to solve at the running back position, as well as the wide receivers. And the best thing you can say is that, on that last drive, the only guys that Brady looked for were Tyler Johnson and Grayson, and they both came through. So, They've got tight ends. They've got other ways they can do it. Gronk had a big day. You've got Cameron Brate who caught a touchdown. O.J. Howard is still a big mystery that's out there. So they'll just have to find other ways to create targets for Brady.
It's definitely an eventful and a lot going on last couple weeks of this season as they get to the playoffs. Which, Joey, what is the playoff scenario shaping up to be, and who do we think they might see in the next couple weeks here?
It's really very simple. If the Bucs can beat the Panthers on Sunday at 4:25, and for those watching, the game has been moved. It's been flexed by the NFL to 4:25. If they beat the Panthers and the Rams lose to the 49ers, the Bucs have that number 2 playoff seed in the NFC, which guarantees them at least 2 home playoff games, which is huge. And I asked Bruce Arians today, about how do you strike a balance between wanting to get that number 2 seed and playing for it, but also just trying to keep the remaining healthy guys on your roster healthy. And he said, there's no balance. We're playing to win. That number 2 seed is a huge deal. We're not resting anybody. We're keeping our foot on the gas. But that being said, Green Bay has wrapped up the number 1 seed in the NFC, which means they clinch home field throughout the playoffs as long as they're still alive. So unfortunately for Bucs fans, if they're fortunate enough to get that far, the playoffs again will run through Lambeau Field, which I think last night had a wind chill in the minuses.
Yeah, that's a little different than the Tampa weather that we've got down here. But hey, they were able to do it last year. Obviously, no fans, or not as many fans up there, but never say never. So we'll see how the rest of the season and the playoffs play out. So guys, make sure you're keeping up with all of our Bucs coverage that we have for you over on social media at Sports by Tampa Bay Times, as well as tampabay.com.